Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get on camera for at least the beginning of this, just so the folks that are online can see who's working with you all as a facilitator. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to our third meeting. So glad you were able to flex your schedules to arrive a half hour earlier, and grateful for the city to make sure we got this nicer room for you all to meet in, and then certainly provide the opportunity for the rest of the community to be able to observe this meeting online. So again, welcome to everybody, including the folks online. And as I just mentioned, again, this is our third meeting. And the first meeting, we were able to basically cover introductions. This group, you all put together your charter, your name of your group, and you identified the goals that you have to work together to put recommendations forward to the city. You were able to tour a very exhaustive tour of the police facility, so you know exactly why the city's asking the community to get involved in looking at the future of the facility for the community. And then last week, we got an idea of some design concepts and seeing what other communities in the Kansas City area are doing. And you all learned a little bit about what some of the best management practices are for modern police facility design, and got to hear some ideas from the police department of some things that they think are priorities. And then you yourselves identify priorities that you came up with for what you think this community needs, based on the fact that you got to see the police department firsthand. And so for the folks online, I also want them to know that we are going to be creating, and you all as well, right? We're going to create a virtual tour so that the rest of the community can see exactly what you saw, and they'll be able to tour the facility by watching the video. So that'll be forthcoming and that sort of thing. I think what I want to do, because we do have people joining us online, and I promise you we're not going to go back on our meetings, but what I do want to do is just very quickly, I want to recap some of the things that you all have already established as a group, so that the people in the community are aware of what you've done so far. Okay, so we'll cover that very quickly, and then we'll get on with the rest of our agenda. So I'll read the charter that you all agreed upon. The Liberty Police Headquarters Community Group will collectively develop and speak with one voice to provide a justifiable recommendation to the City of Liberty regarding the needs and the scope of an enlarged police facility or relocated police facility. The recommendation will reflect the values and the priorities of the community, as well as the long-term needs of the Liberty Police Department and its citizens are met within allowable resources. And you decided to call yourselves the Liberty Police Headquarters Community Group, and your goals are: make recommendations that can be moved forward by the city, ensure the police station is a welcoming environment, recommend that voters will support the initiative, have a police facility that promotes officer recruitment and retention, address potential for future space and expansion needs, ensure recommendations differentiate between needs and wants, and identify grant funding opportunities. So those were your goals. And I'll highlight, you have more than this, but I'll just highlight a handful of the priorities that you established that, again, were based on your direct personal observation of the current condition of the police facility. The design must improve the functionality of the department, efficiency and modular design to allow for separate police operation divisions, detectives, special units, etc. Safety for the public coming in, and in this case, it was because potentially somebody may be fleeing a potential threat, and you all want to make sure that they arrive in a place where they can be secure once they do so. Better security for staff. Public welcome. What you want the facility to have a more public welcoming presence about it, and allow for meeting space for the public to meet with the police force, and certainly that could help provide some training space for the police department as well. And you think that the facility needs better holding cells, and you'd like to see separate offices and better work flow through the building. For example, you thought it was kind of like a terrible situation that some officers, their offices are a thoroughfare to a storage unit. Like you actually have to walk through somebody's workspace to get to storage. as opposed to having the storage accessible to everybody without interrupting a workspace. So those are some things that you identify as priorities, and there's certainly more. And I'll just say again, the full breadth of all of the priorities that you've established will be something that'll end up in a fact sheet. So everybody will get to see all the things that you're considering as you work to put together what will be your recommendations to the city. So with that, if we could pull the agenda up for just a second so everybody here and then the folks online can see. We'll take a quick look at that, and then we'll start heading down that agenda path. Okay, so welcoming remarks. So now there was a design charrette that was last week, correct?
Yep.
Last week, so we'll cover that. And then we're going to talk a little bit more, start getting your feedback on building aesthetics, things that you might like to see featured with the building. What it takes to estimate costs. We're not necessarily going to have any costs tonight, but just so you all get a handle on how that process works and that sort of thing. And then our next meeting is December 16th. And before we adjourn tonight, I'll cover the upcoming meetings so that everybody here and online will know what those are. And it's my understanding too that we'll try to stream all the future meetings of this group as well. Before we go further on welcoming remarks, I guess just for the good of the people again online, I know you all have introduced yourselves. You're starting to get to know each other real well. If you could at least we'll go around the table, have well, everybody's sitting at the table, have you identify yourselves, how long you've lived in Liberty, and what you currently do here in town, and then what ward you're from. And I know, Christina, you're at large, so we'll go ahead and start with you, Christina.
I'm Christina Ordonio, and I've lived in Liberty since 2000, but before that, I grew up here in Liberty as well. So
great.
Jackie Murtha. I've lived here for 28 years. I've worked in Liberty for 35 years, and I'm a senior vice president with Clay County Savings Bank.
Great, thank you.
Robert Wegley, I grew up in Liberty, and I've been back as a resident since 2020.
I'm Ken Hinton. I'm not one of the study group. I'm one of the architects with Hafer Welker, and I'm a partner over there. I head up our civic group, so I'm in charge of leading the design through the next few phases.
Nick Lawler, Hafer Welker, project manager.
Brian Dom, I have lived in Liberty all 34 years of my life and currently am an assistant principal at Heritage Middle School here in Liberty.
I'm Bill Moberly, and I've lived in Liberty my entire life of 75 years, and I'm retired now.
And I'm Ed Columber. I've lived in Liberty about 20 years, and I'm the Vice President of Mental Health Services at Rediscover.
And I am Matt Smith. I've been in Liberty almost 20 years, and I'm a software architect locally.
Great, and we have two people. I do expect we have one person that's out actually taking his two boys out hunting right now.
Wow.
So getting some good quality family time there, and that's Lee Bucksay. And Lee is from Ward 1. And you guys, you're supposed to introduce your wards too. So I'll just let everybody know online that we have two people from every of the 4 wards of town. We got 2 people from each ward, as well as an at-large person, for a total of 9. And then Pamon Aramjo, Joe, if I'm saying his name right, is from Ward 2. I do expect him to show up here at some point this evening. So anyway, with that, without further ado, let's go ahead and cover the design charrette results.
Sure.
I believe that's the next thing on our agenda.
Do you want to share the 3D images?
You want to present this? Yes.
Define charrette for us.
So we
I guess
we were here about 3 days last week, and there's no way we're going to design every nut and bolt of a building or especially a police station in 3 or 4 days. But in that process, we're working full time we took over the council chambers, and we're sitting in there morning to night, and the police officers and things were coming in at certain key times. Then they leave because they have a job to do. We have them back the next morning or later that day, and so we could get some good feedback. We kind of started off. This is a 3D model of the existing building, and you can see in the background there's some neighborhood back in there. That's the uptown, up the hill, downtown. Is this something we do?
No, she's got.
No, I'm telling you, are you ready for the next one?
You can see we kind of have been, first of all, we analyzed just some blue box models. That's what we call them. Sometimes we make them a little bit transparent so you can kind of see through and see all the stuff that's in there. just intended to kind of mask out how big they are. You notice that all of them kind of sit out in the street. And we are definitely going to be closing, if this building expands, definitely going to be closing that street out there. And that was a request anyway. Yeah, just back up. So there we go with the white box models. Then we started adding some white box models, which are the next things that you see there. We try to do glass where the glass might go. And you can kind of start to see, we're thinking a little bit more about building form. This is in more detail we've kind of added because we want people to really like the architecture and not get, especially when they're not used to it, not get it associated with the brick color they really like. So they choose a design they don't really like, but the right color. So we go through it in what we call a white box form to show, you can see this from the different sides, everything that's going on there. One of the key things that could happen, could you back up just a little bit? Just keep right in there, so that one right there. So we got a really nice entrance on the right side of the plan. Maybe back up just one more, sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
So one of the things that this building really lacks, this police station really lacks, is it lacks a good front door. You know, quite frankly, what they've got down here is unassuming. If you drive around there and you're lucky enough to find that parking spot, you walk in there, it's kind of lifeless, and their records unit, quite frankly, is upstairs. We're looking at changing all of that and really give them a presence out on one of the main thoroughfares of the city, just like City Hall has. And in doing so in the expansion, it really helps us. So they were identifying the police folks were trying to identify something that was a little bit more glassy as an entrance, something that's a lot of natural light in and really gives them a presence downtown. Then that next slide that you've got. There it is. You see that glassy, that glassy thing in the middle. One of the other things that this building doesn't really have from a police standpoint, it doesn't really have a good place for the police to come to work. And one of the things that we find, and we acknowledge that here, is when we stack a building, a police station, not as much stuff wants to go upstairs as it does on downstairs. Like those garage doors on the left are all Sallyport doors. Obviously, they're not driving the Sallyport and the car's in upstairs, so they have to be downstairs. So things like that need to stay down. And we were able to create kind of a two-story space right there in the center of the building that allows them to come into a nice break room. It gives them, it's an access hub for all of their inner workings of their facility. And it really has changed everything. I mean, I even talked to the chief when we got done with the shred and I go, Chief, what do you think? And he goes, Ken, I had no idea we could accomplish this with this site. And I was honest with him. I go, Chief, I didn't think we would either. I mean, I was all behind it. We're going to do the best thing we could do. But all these things, as we worked together as a group last week, this came out of it. And I'll tell you, it's life-changing for the officers that work here. And it's certainly will be comparable with other stations in the area. So I'm really happy about that. Go on to that, maybe the next one. Thanks. I probably won't, and you can see kind of as we go over how the could be. Then we did some color studies. Now we're starting to add some materials to it, thinking we may or may not be able to match the existing building perfectly. So we want to make sure that we complement it if we don't match it. But you can see what it looks like. It's going to be a beautiful building. One of the things that happened is we've got this courtyard up in front, and they were thinking about maybe doing an officer memorial there. That courtyard is something that reaches out, since we closed the street, reached out and touches the public. Now all the great events that you have downtown here, they can spill over into this plaza. And amazingly, the thought is there's going to be a parking garage across the street, right across the street from where they are at some point in the future. And it created kind of a natural courtyard that was private for the police officers to use for either taking their lunch outside on a nice day if they're working in the building, or maybe even an outdoor workout area. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen out there if they had the space to do it. And those things just came about just because as the project evolved. So is that the last slide from them?
No.
There's your courtyard. Yeah, that's kind of the back alley going up in between that and the court, or in the county. That's good. So that's kind of what it looks like on the outside.
And again, we just started design, so this is just last week. So obviously that we have lots more feedback that we want to get from you all and from the city and the PD as we move forward. And that's just a great place to start conversation with what we put together. Go ahead, Steve.
Did anybody from the community group actually manage to get to the charrette?
I don't know if we saw anybody or not.
Show up?
We definitely wanted to show the outcome tonight. So.
Okay.
Can you back up to that all white building that kind of shows the officer entry in the city hall and everything, and the main entry? since you got it there.
This one?
Yeah,
Or
just keep
further.
keep going, all white. Yeah, right, next
Back
one,
one.
next one. What do we think? I mean, you can see the courtyard in the foreground that's gonna have the garage blocking it off from this side. All their covered parking will eventually will be in the garage on the lowest level.
So there's gonna be
Yes, sir.
secure parking in the garage.
Superior parking in the garage, lowest
Okay.
level of the garage. Now, the garage has to come.
Yeah, we wanted to accomplish a couple of things. We know the garage is dependent on potentially a private developer and that's a kind of a TBD thing. But we wanted to make sure that the police station itself stood alone and made sense from circulation path day one, phase one. And then make sure that we're accommodating that garage when it does come and the opportunity for secure parking within that garage.
So initially, they're parking in the lot where they're parking now, which is not the best thing for them, but
Well, if the parking lot never comes, you can extend the fencing around to make it secure parking.
you could, yeah. And we talked about that a little bit. That's a great idea. And we should probably capture that and make sure that we got that.
How many square foot is the building now? X number, whatever it is, and then how much square footage will it be after the expansion? So
The whole, I don't know if I have the whole building. They've got 2,500 square feet on the second floor that's available to them. And they've got about 10,000 square feet on the lower level that's available to them.
now,
Yeah, now.
okay?
Now, that building is bigger than that. Of course, that doesn't account for any city hall, the
No.
council chambers and all that stuff, but that's the amount that's for police. So they're in about 15,000 feet. 12,500, I guess, if I do the math, right? 10 and 12,500. And then we've expanded this up to, off the top of your head, do you remember that number? 35,000? Yeah, about 35,000. So we've added an additional 20,000 feet. Now, that's a little bit deceptive because there's a couple of vehicle storage bays that aren't in that building. They're gonna go in the garage across the street for like couple of their trailers, and they've got a crime scene van, things like that. They just don't need to be in the building. Otherwise, that entire lower facade would be all garage doors.
So it's 35,000 and the other stuff will go in the proposed parking garage?
Yeah, just a
Okay.
couple of vehicles being stored in there with their secure parking and so we're probably closer to 32 total in this building because we pulled a few things out that are gonna be future phase.
Does it free up space for the city to use?
It does give them a little space.
A little space, you don't have an estimate?
Yeah, it gives them about 1,500 square feet or so, maybe a little bit more than that. We'll show you. We're not gonna share the plans with everybody, but we'll show you guys the plans today, I think was the goal here. So that they don't get broadcast all over the world.
Yeah, I just what Nick or Ken's talking about. So one of the things we don't want to do, and you'll get to see this, but we're not going to broadcast what is really a high security situation. We don't need bad people seeing what the floor plans are for this police department.
Oh, yeah.
No, I
You
agree.
will be privy to
No.
see how this lays out, but that's something we're not going to broadcast that over the internet.
What I think he was asking is what, with the expansion and the officers moving around, how much space is left for the city hall to be able to expand
I
and
think
grow?
it's a couple thousand feet.
Yeah.
We'll see the plan up there and it's not quite up.
Yeah, you said it better.
Yeah,
Isn't that what you're?
yeah,
yeah.
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it's over there where it is now, where that reception
Oh, yeah.
desk is over
Yeah,
there.
right.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
right.
just because, we kind of wanted to match the box up. Now, we could have chopped that second floor back and made it smaller than the first floor. But you lose some economies when you do that, and just giving that space back to City Hall seemed like a better idea. And it really
Yeah,
functions
yeah.
better for them than it does for the police, because it's kind of out on the wing of the building, so. Claire, can you go back one?
I think this is just a good shot too. I think the opportunity to create this public plaza there that someday could be used by, whatever development's going on in that parking lot, but also just used for the community in general. It's a great way to kind of terminate that street that, has been taken out by this new building. But we were impressed, I think Ken said this earlier, that this building addition made a lot of sense as we got to really draw on it, and we'll see that on the floor plans here. The addition worked, and the PD does have a presence in it. I think if we were able to accomplish it and use some of that existing square footage that's here right now, obviously, and do this addition, and it made a lot of sense.
So you see on the left there, there's a glassy thing. That's the stair and elevator tower coming down from the parking garage, for your parking garage. And then they can be glassy, so it's got high security. The red brick building just poking itself into the corner would be that multi-story mixed use facility. And Mick was talking about if there was a restaurant there, wouldn't it be nice for them to have some patio seating right out on the left side of that plaza out there? It'd almost be their secure, semi-secure yard, and it could be really a really integrated and active space.
And that's just theory crafting, right? Like, we're just saying hypothetically.
Hypothetically,
Yeah.
yes, exactly, yeah.
And what about on the other side? So we did this stuff over here. This looks great. On the other side, we just have the dead end road for now.
Well, the county wants to create a physical link. Can you see in the bottom left-hand corner where the judges and their staff go in?
Right.
That sidewalk there, they would like to have a physical link to the parking garage.
Mhm.
So the thought that, we don't know what that is, whether it's a tunnel or a canopy or whatever it is, but that's kind of where it is. That space in between their physical link and that road right now is just a street.
Gotcha.
But it could very easily be improved a little bit and, tear the asphalt out and plant some grass or something.
That's a county building right here?
That's the
Yeah,
county
and
building.
we've maintained pedestrian
That's the
access
county
from the
stuff.
garage between the PD and the county building. That sidewalk's been maintained, that's there today. So the general public can still go that way and get into the county building on the north side of it. There's about 3 feet of grade change too, so where the staff entry is there and that plaza to the north, that's about 3 feet up from where this that street's still shown there. So there will be a physical height separation between the staff entry and the police entry in the space to the south here.
Looking at the common space that you're talking about, the, up there, the aesthetics, when you walk into the police department building, what it gives you right there, that is so, to me, very pleasing because I am such a part of this community. I like to have something I'm proud of. And when you mentioned having some kind of events here, I love that fact. I'm on the Historic Downtown Liberty Board as well. And we are always trying to find where can we go? We target all the shops in the area. We want to bring people into downtown. And this would also make it as, pleasing for people that actually come into our community to see this and what the benefit is for you to bring our community into the police department. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that everybody is safe and secure. And I absolutely love this part. I have had an opportunity to speak to a brand new police officer and also a retired police officer and what their thoughts are on this building. And both of them were saying security. And also I have an instance where a judge was followed from the courthouse to her car at one time. So security is a big issue with everybody that's involved in that. I like the fact that you have an area for the judges and the courthouse people to go directly to their car. I know that's down the road, but a parking garage to me is very important, and security of those police officers because they want to go home to their families.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, this
Great comment.
area would be really good on neighborhood night out when all the
Oh,
people
yeah.
come downtown and the cops come out and the fire.
Yeah, the National Night Out. I was part of that as well. And there's a lot of people. There's a couple thousand people that come down here to that event.
No kidding.
Uh-huh. Our fall festival, I realize this, I'm on,
Perfect.
I hate to say this, I volunteer for everything, but I'm on the fall festival committee as well and talking to the Chamber of Commerce. What is this going to have? What's going to happen to our fall festival? And they said, you know what? Our fall festival is 3 days a year. This is going to be long term. And they thought this was important to them as well.
Claire, can you go back one?
I think it works with.
And maybe one more.
Festival.
They're going to just have to figure it out. Yeah,
Keep going.
Yeah, it will.
Oh, right there.
it will. Yeah.
So that space, you could still have some fall festival events occur.
Right.
Right even in that space that's left over. There's a lot of land there. So.
Let me ask this. I think I'm hearing it, but just ask the direct question. You all have identified that you want whatever happens to this facility to be welcoming to the public. But you also, equally important to you, is that you wanted it welcoming for the police staff. Do you see, does this look something along the lines of welcoming to the community?
Right, absolutely.
Sure.
And Captain, does this seem, how does this make you feel as far as, does it make you feel proud to want to walk through those doors, or does it make you feel welcome to be serving this community?
Yeah, I think once you go to the interior layout of things later on, you'll be able to see how that is very welcoming to the officers and staff coming in another entrance. And the front courtyard is great for us to host community events as well.
Right.
And then another thing that you all said as a community group was that you recognize the value of recruiting and retention of the police force. And do you feel that this design, this expansion, this idea, would this further with the attracting people to want to come work at this police
A
department?
lot more than what we currently have. Anything would be better than what we currently have.
Okay.
That's
And we
so
could-
true.
And we can say like the cover looks great. It'll be nice to see like what's inside the.
Well, and we will see that. We're not, the
Yeah,
folks
for sure.
online, we're not going to
Absolutely.
be able to show that to them, but
Right.
we'll see that tonight.
The book's looking good though.
Okay, Captain, do you think this will aid your recruiting and retention efforts?
Hopefully, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, and you always feel excited and proud to walk into a beautiful building. I mean, when you go to work every day, you want it to look nice. You want to feel proud of what you're walking into. You want to, have that open space, have those conversations that you can actually see people.
And another priority, just want to keep reflecting on your priorities with what you're seeing so far. You mentioned that you want something that's going to be acceptable to the community. Do you think the rest of the community shares in your desire to take pride in the public facility and what you're doing and the facility your police are working out of? You think the rest of the community will share in finding some pride in this?
People I have talked to, absolutely. They definitely see that we have a need here. They know the police department building even before. I said, have you ever been in there? And they go, it's been years, but I know it hasn't changed. And so the people I have discussed it, absolutely. And closing that street, down, it's not a big deal at all.
No.
Anybody else have thoughts on that? On the community pride and
Pride is always important, but it's pride at what cost? And I think that that's something that we're going to have to work that out. We have to pay for it. But I think pride is really important to everybody in the city of Liberty. At least it always was back in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. I expect it still is now.
I agree. Yeah, you want something that looks nice and is welcoming and
If you look at this design, all glassy things are probably the most expensive thing, but they're kind of limited to the officer entry and to this. Although it looks like there's big tall windows going down the side of the building, they're not. It's an architectural design and they're just punched windows just exactly like the other building. We do have a little bit more glass in the new building, just a little bit bigger windows because the windows in City Hall are kind of small and they're spaced out quite a bit, but it's going to allow a lot of natural light. That was kind of important.
it'll help on energy. It'll help warm the building.
It does. Let natural light in to reduce the lighting demand on the building too.
Yeah, Bill.
I like the conservatism of it. It's not a Taj Mahal. It's an adequate design. And if it's worth the price, that's better for us, I believe, instead of something very fancy. It's lack of a better word, but it's functional.
Now, Ken and Nick, is there any other specific feedback that you'd like to get from this group on what they're seeing here from the design charrette? Any very specific things you
You
like?
can't see it, but in the foreground, like in the gray parking lot in front of us is the parking garage. And there's a canopy going into the Sallyport doors on the left side that they thought would be nice because this is an enclosed courtyard and we could put a gate on it or something so you get in and out of there. But the idea is to cover those cars. So if you do have a big snow event, they're not trying to drive out of the garage through a snowdrift to get into their Sallyports. So that be something we might want to, I'd like to get your input. What do you think about that covered parking coming into the Sallyport? One other thing is we're thinking that all that green inside their courtyard is turf. You know what I mean? They don't need to be in there trying to get mowers in or having an outside agency do that. It's just a small upgrade to get turf, then they can work out on that kind of year round if it's a nice day and they don't have to worry about it becoming a mud hole. Do those things resonate with you all? Is it worth spending the money for that?
Personally, I think it's a great idea. Look at all the money you're gonna save mowing and taking care of that grass.
Let's go around the room. Matthew, what do you think of, I guess take two different things here, right?
Yeah.
So covered entry for the Sally ports and then turf versus sod.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to not have a bunch of snow. I mean, we don't get a ton, but in the event that we do, it'd be nice to have direct access. And then the turf will pay for itself over time, I think.
So you did positive on both of those?
For sure.
Okay, Ed?
Turf, yes. I'm not sure about the covered Sally port because you're really not going to have, you're going to drop the prisoner off and then come back out, right? Or are you going to?
Vehicle investigation.
I mean, there's also, for bringing vehicles in for investigation, we'll bring them in through there. And it's also covered for security purposes too. If we're bringing prisoners to and from, we can have people from above or trying to throw things inside. And it's also a security aspect for us as well.
The convenient perch we gave them with the parking lot, the parking garage.
I mean, they figured out ways to make that secure with the hollow wall.
That's good.
Of openings. But
Yeah.
And then also, we can have events underneath the covered patio. Our junior police academy every year, they're always outside. We can, are in the shade when it's
Wouldn't that be nice?
July, 100 degrees outside. And we can have outdoor PD events.
So it's more than just a driveway. It
is more than a driveway.
Also an outdoor patio, covered patio.
Does that change your thoughts on that? You still question that or do you think it's a plus?
I'm good with
You good?
plussing
Okay.
it up.
Okay, Bill?
I'm good for the turf and I'm good for the covered parking lot if it's reasonable in cost. I'm gonna, a lot of things I'm gonna talk about, what's something cost. If it's feasible in cost, it's worth our buck, then yes.
Okay.
But not as an ultra. I don't know if I think that's more of a want than a need.
Okay.
I think I'm a yes on both. I think the turf is necessary, especially if you're expecting it and planning for it to be a well-trafficked area that's open to the community. Having that be turf or having that be grass would just be a headache to just keep up and continue to look nice. So turf, 100%. And to me, functionality, it makes the most sense to have a covered area there. I'm not the expert there, so I'll take the expert's opinion on that.
Okay. Doc?
Turf, I'm really in for the turf because I can't imagine what grass would look like a year or two down the road. And the dogs would love it. And I don't think we need that out there. The canopy, I'm fine with the canopy. But I'm not sure it saves anything other than lives, which is what you mentioned. And I had not thought about that. And I'm thinking that to me pretty much justifies it. Something we haven't talked about yet. I mean, I'm always wanting to see if there's things that we could do that can save us money down the road. I'm seeing a whole lot of flat space on top of the roofs, and I'd love to see solar panels on it. But that's not a part of that could always be added. I don't know how to say that. It's a good space to do it.
We did analyze solar and what the impact it would have, like using the roofs and things like that too. Is that solar, if it could pay back in 10 or 15 years and it operated about 30% or 40% of the building's power, would that be valuable to you? I don't know. I can't remember exactly the amount it would be, but.
Unless the city plans on closing at any time sooner than that, if the city closes down, yes, it would be valuable.
Okay.
Because it lowers costs down the road. Then you
Lowers
get
costs
free
forever.
energy for 40%.
Yeah. And we got a lot of roof sitting over there on City Hall. We don't have to limit our solar field to
And
this roof of this new building necessarily.
And that's a separate decision from
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I realize that. I
Yeah.
just want to keep putting that in the record.
Okay.
That's important to me, and I think it's important to us, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I've already said on the turf and the events out there, I think that's a fabulous idea. And for the Sally Port to be covered like that, I also think it's a good idea because I think, you know, when we look at all of these things that we're doing, my main focus is security on everyone, staff, even the prisoners, even whoever comes in and out of that space.
Yeah.
We want them to be secure.
I agree I like the cover, the idea of the cover. I'm not sure of the different styles that it could be any different or anything. I'm fine with the turf also. I'm not sure that we need all the little spots of it, but at least for the two larger spots of the turf, I think that's fine.
Okay.
I
Yes,
guess a
Ron.
quick question, just on the Sally Port, is there something that would block it off from the courtyard? Or is it just an open,
Yeah, can you see that black wall? It's just on the left side, sorry.
got you, so all of that to the left of that is closed
It's
off?
all, yeah, that's closed off there, and we don't know if it's gonna be a wall or a fence or a combination of the two. Same with the other side. The idea is to create some security around that plaza, and again, after a few days of design, we're not quite to that detail yet, but it certainly makes sense from a standpoint, you know, if they're gonna worry about getting shot or something like that, that kind of wants to be something kind of solid.
Yeah.
As to maybe a chain link fence with privacy slats in it would be the lowest end of the totem
Yeah.
pole, but it doesn't help with security. As a matter of fact, hurts them, because somebody could be literally standing on the other side of the fence and they wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that's kind of what we were thinking.
And I apologize if you already answered it, but as far as this side, parking lot side, prior to parking garage,
Mhm.
what's the game plan for that as far as security goes?
You know,
Is it just open or?
Robert had mentioned, maybe, you know, we could certainly at least fence the thing, and they would love to have the garage day one. But I'm thinking that if we could fence off a part of those stalls and just keep them so that you don't have the general public milling around the police vehicles and vice versa, that would be the thing we could do, but you can kind of see it. We kind of have this. It's not a huge upgrade. Fence is certainly gonna help. Would you agree? A fence would be better than nothing at all.
Is there gonna be some defensive architecture stuff, like, you know, the target balls
Mhm.
out in the front of it to prevent somebody from ramming that big glass on the public side?
Aren't those balusters or something?
Target ball.
That's a good word. I knew what you were talking
You
about.
too, right there.
Barriers, barricades?
Yes, there will be, you know, we just saw one just in the last 2 years. Somebody drove into a station down in Texas, rode right in the front door. Yes, there will definitely be some barriers. We try to do them with benches, some concrete benches and things, so it doesn't look like it's such an institution.
Functional.
But it definitely, we want to keep people from either losing control incidentally or taking a bad action and trying to do something harmful. Keep them from going through your building.
So it sounds like universally the group supports the turf. And I think I think at some point you'll be able to come up with an estimate of what the covering would come
Oh, yeah,
to. And
yeah.
then, so we don't have like a unanimous agreement that that's the great thing, but we're not hearing anybody vehemently opposed to it. We're just, I think it sounds like it's a good idea, but we need to see what the cost is.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I didn't mention that you did, Kevin, is the ability to have events and stuff outside. You know, if you're trying to build your team, having the ability to bring them into a formal gathering like that, and that's something that's, you know, everything that we can do to make your space better to work in or a nicer place to be. You know, once you buy, you don't spend any more money on it. You just get the best recruits maybe, and people have a tendency to work, especially the younger kids are more interested in where am I going to be sitting and how are you doing on the world, you know, keeping the world from overheating.
Mhm.
That's their primary goal. So
Any other feedback that you want on any of the other slides at this point? It's kind of the two major things.
I think we got some good thoughts on the exterior design. Again, we're very, very early. So any other thoughts, we'll share those.
Well, let's ask this. I mean, do you think that you want the design, I guess, to basically be compatible with the existing building, right? I mean, kind of stick with the red brick, try to keep that synced up. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
if we can't match it exactly, are we okay with just a slightly different shade? Sometimes you get two bricks that are trying to be the same and you get them out there and they just don't match at all.
How about something that complements it? if you can?
Complementary is the word I was looking for.
Complimentary.
Yeah.
There, could you
Okay,
go
so complimentary brick.
to the one that shows the plaza front a little bit there? Yeah, that one right there.
See if you know how to spell it.
COMP period is what he's writing down.
So that public entry does a nice job of separating the existing city hall brick and this new brick. So we do have an opportunity to kind of, make them complementary without having to have them touch.
Yeah, they don't touch. That's a good point.
Where would the public parking be?
In that existing parking lot or the parking garage
Okay.
someday, or on the street.
Or on the street.
In convenient street.
You can see down there, up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little blue glass peeking out of the parking garage. That's right in the center of the block. We're thinking all the public that comes to use the county building will probably come down there. It's just past the edge of our sally port, so it's outside the police secure area. But it's going to give them a good link so that they feel comfortable going in and out. If you're on a jury or something, you want to have a pretty quick path back and forth. So
in theory, one stair tower would be for police or courts entry, and the other stair tower would be for the county.
Do you want to move on to the interior?
Sure.
Okay.
So we, again, it's about 3 days, and we redrew this about 4 times. Got PD and city feedback, came back again later that day, met again, and so forth for those 3 days. So this is the final first floor plan that we had come up with at the end of that 3-day charrette, and then we have the second floor as well. Could you want to cover one on cover together? Or?
I don't care. Go ahead. Yeah.
So again, keeping that image that we just had up there in mind, here's that entry. So that plaza would be right out here, where we're seeing, the entrance to PD, having some type of vestibule and then a lobby that really serves the purpose of welcoming you to both City Hall and courts and or the PD. That records window that's currently on the second floor of City Hall would move down to the first floor, truly making a PD entrance. Our goal is to utilize those existing restrooms that are right here that are fairly renovated, nicer restrooms, and then obviously maintain the existing elevator, maintain the existing stair. So there's a small corridor that kind of gets you back to the core here that already exists. Other folks that are coming to the PD come this direction. So there's that records department, and you can see how that's grown from where they are today. There's a separate files room just for that, and then there's a captain's office and a supervisor's office there for kind of a dedicated record suite. So we're not walking through offices anymore to get to points of the station. Coming down this hallway here, we've got some interview rooms, conference rooms, and these are all their report writing stations. So I'm going to switch over to here. So this is where those officers would come in at. So there's those sally ports we talked about with that potential canopy to the east, bottom of the page there. So that's their entry. So staff entrance coming through this vestibule, coming into essentially a break room area. So being able to utilize that break room is also kind of as a lobby for staff, so to speak. With the kitchenette area here, where you'd have your microwaves and your refrigerators, just like you have for any break room. Maybe some soft seating here, and then some tables. So then you come in and you've got your sergeants all in this area here. Right now, those sergeants, you saw that, there's 3 of them or so sharing a room in PD. So there's all the sergeants they actually need. So there's about 9 cubicles for them, and then a kind of a collaboration area here. Coming on down again, there's that nice roll call room, similar to the one that they have now. That's where they're being at the start of their shifts. And then report writing for all of the different patrol officers, their volunteers, and some traffic officers as well. A really neat opportunity here. So again, utilizing that existing building, obviously we've got to make do with the structural columns that exist. Really neat opportunity to create maybe some display space here. So you're coming to work, you look at this hallway, maybe you see an officer memorial or some type of really nice node, so to speak, to everybody to see it as they pass through each day. Back here, you can see men's locker room, women's locker room. Now, unfortunately, they're sharing one shower off of a hallway for their entire staff. This obviously is much more adequate, where there's 3 showers for men, 2 showers for women, and the lockers needed for the staff, and planning for the future as well. But also trying to be economical. This is the restrooms for the whole first floor. So you've got the men's restrooms, the women's restroom. For all staff to use on that lower level, but it's also the locker room. The space back here, maintained essentially for City Hall. So there's some storage space back there that PD may or may not need in the future, but really great opportunity for the City Hall to expand in that basement if they had, needs for storage. Obviously, storage is always a need. So that space would remain as is today. That existing Sally Port would become their exercise room potentially. So moving some walls around there and having an opportunity for some, at least maybe some high windows into their exercise room. And then again, utilizing the mechanical equipment that we have today and the space for that stays in the mechanical room and actually grows a little bit. And then to the west, we've got a nice sized storage room there for PD.
We've done a study on a parallel path to look at the mechanical systems for the entire building because it's original. And there's so much better and more efficient equipment today that basically the system doesn't change a lot, but it does. But we were able to add a few bells and whistles, not only to allow them to use power costs in the evening when it's really late at night when the power consumption is for the country is low, so the rates are real low, and not have to use so much when it's the heat of the day. So we got some strategies to do that, which we presented to the city. And I don't know when they're going to do it. If they do this project, it'll be concurrent with it, or it might be before or after. But it certainly is a neat thing for this building.
And currently, some of the city hall staff uses a workout room back in this area. There's a potential the city hall staff would share this exercise room as well.
They probably would,
They'd have access through this hallway here and not have to come into the PD space to get to that exercise room. So have a nice shared amenity for all those in the facility. Back over to this side, so you've got your Sally Port bays, a vehicle processing area for crime investigations, their SWAT room, which is obviously needed to get right out of the building. And then this is their detention area, their holding cells. A little bit more efficient layout. Definitely wanted to have separation of sight and sound for men and women and meet some industry standards for that.
Yeah, this one actually works. The other one is probably really difficult. They're having to do things just to make that happen, and it just takes their time out of the day.
And then this area in the middle is their property processing. So again, those officers come in here, package up their property and put it in these pass-through lockers. And then they're able to, the clerk on the other side can take it out and obviously put it where it needs to go in terms of their storage spaces. We also wanted to get their property clerk out from underneath the ductwork. I think he's working below some ductwork right now, and he's actually in the property where we actually have an office for him, small office, but he's able to have some human connection to the rest of an apartment. Maybe there's a window right here that he can see people walking by. They know he's working back there. He's not all alone back in the back. So his day-to-day, experience is much more enjoyable. And just, we think that's a really good idea for that connection there. And then there's this stair that takes you upstairs to the second floor.
One of the things we found in some other facilities, if we could put some kind of, when you're looking at that break room, it's actually a 2-story space. There's nothing above it. And when we get to the other floor plan, I'll show you the impact that it has up there. But that stair links everyone together, all the departments together, and people use it. It is amazing. The facility we've done, they're running up and down those stairs all the time. And it's just, the feedback we've got is some of the commanders are bumping into people that they haven't seen for a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? And in some cases with bigger departments that are spread out all over their city, it might be months before they've seen some people. So it really helps to build camaraderie, help get people together. Can you go to any questions? This is about our 4th or 5th pass through this plan, but we still, when Nick and I look at this thing, we still see a dozen things we want to tweak and make better. And we got some feedback from the PD last week. So, and they've got some comments on this too. So there hasn't been picked up yet, but we are in this next step. You're really early. Yes.
How do you get the prisoners from there to the county jail? What's the route?
Okay, you see this thing right here is a bonding lobby.
Okay.
And it comes out, and this is the walkway that goes between the courthouse, between the county building and the police station. So if you need to bond someone out, you can take them right out through here, or if you were going to actually take someone to the county.
So we would either transport by car, which is the most secure way to do it, or 2 officers could walk up. There's a side door there by that bonding lobby.
Right there.
That you could go out on a sidewalk and walk them over to Clay County.
You're good with that?
We regularly do it now,
Yeah.
or we walk them sometimes. Depends on the security of the prisoner.
This shortens your walk, right? I mean, and you're more behind now a secure wall with this, correct?
Yes.
When they go out that door, they're in the public walkway though, Steve,
Okay.
between the county building and the And the police station, the county's in public world. We have to go into the public to get into the county building. In this case,
Or you take them by vehicle potentially.
yeah, but, yeah.
Like you said, the Sally Port would take them.
Yeah, to the Sally Port.
Yeah.
County
take
has
them out
Sally Port on
And then
the
go
other.
into the Sally Port of the Clay County Jail.
All right.
Yeah. I have a question on the sergeant's cubicles, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I remember a discussion about that. Let's say a sergeant has to talk with a patrol officer,
Mhm.
and there wasn't really an office to do that.
So we've got a conference room right here. So it's not right by the break room or anything like that. It's kind of down the hall a little bit. Good access to the folks that are writing the reports, but this is where those one-on-one conversations would occur.
Okay.
Also, there is some small space here, and those 9 sergeants aren't there at the same time. And even if they are, a lot of times, correct me if I'm wrong, those private conversations can happen amongst the other sergeants because they're all the same level. So they could have a meeting if they want to right there at that small collaboration area, or they'd have that meeting in that conference room right here.
There's also a giant roll call room right across the hall too. If it's available, they can certainly go in there.
Go in there and shut the doors for that room as well.
Right.
Is it customary, as far as this captain's office down here, is it customary for that to be open, like to the records office with those employees out there? Is that how it generally works?
Yep.
I'm familiar with.
This particular captain is over records.
Gotcha.
That's
So
their
it's
unit,
it's their unit that they're working with. That's why they have access. There's another captain's office here that's over operations, which is essentially their patrol department. And so their access, obviously, to all their patrol team is right there.
Sometimes those captain's offices go with the administration on the upper floor. In this case, it's just depending on how they want to run their organization. Because we don't tell them how to police their city or how to manage their people, but we design what they want. Yeah, sure is. Yes, sir.
How about the juvenile facility where that was
Yep.
so lacking before?
So there's a
Yeah,
little
over
space
there.
right here. So it's not in the jail. It'll be off this hallway.
Okay.
And they'll have a kind of a processing holding area and then their own private restroom as well.
Was there a requirement that they had to watch them all the time? And that's why they were where they were? So is somebody
I would think so.
is that open where somebody can see them all the time?
Or they're gonna sit in there with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would think that would be with any prisoner, that they need to be watched at all times.
And you have a requirement that you can't just put somebody in there and leave them.
Yeah, depending on what the juveniles often have committed, whether or not they can go behind a locked door.
And I hope the gentleman that works in the evidence room is going to be here long enough to get the experience of the new building.
And we'd love to have him see that. You can see we've also maintained all the existing stairs that you're kind of seeing sprinkled throughout the floor plan. So that's stair here. Then there's a little back stair that takes them up to that big utility yard.
It's right outside this window.
Yeah, it's right down here from these windows. And then this is their back exit already that they have as well. So trying to save costs and not try to spend money rebuilding stairs that are already there.
I have a question. This looks wonderful actually, but how many officers is that prepared for? I mean, is that built for our current staff or is it built for additional stuff coming in or what's the long-range plan for that building? For what we have already.
What a great question. Liberty has been kind of flat population for some time now, and there really isn't any projection for it to have tremendous growth. But that's only because no one you have to use a crystal ball to see what's going on next year. All the development of the things that are happening in here, we feel like there's going to be some growth. So we did build about 10% growth into this, maybe 15%. What do you think? Something like that?
75.
Yeah, we went up from like 50 to 75 or
50 officers
55.
to 75 officers. That's what I was trying to find.
So that's
Yeah.
50%.
Yeah, 50, do you remember the actual numbers? Was it 57?
Yeah.
And you're going to 74? Is that what the two numbers were?
There's enough growth here
Well,
for us.
that's,
Yes, there is some growth. With the thought is we better plan a little bit of growth in here and not just do what we need
oh,
today.
yeah.
And that was it came from you, it came from good planning practice, but you guys had mentioned this in our very first meeting. Let's make sure we're not designing for yesterday
That's right.
and
Right.
move in and we have a building that is too
It's
small.
small already, yeah.
And we always say we kind of want to get the chassis right. And one of the biggest things of this chassis would be these locker rooms. So day one, we don't need to buy all the lockers, and we're actually gonna reuse those nice lockers that they already have. And that's why I know this is a hand sketch, but you're seeing some different sizes here. So, hey, let's use what we already have, and then we're gonna buy some a little bit bigger ones that are, we see usually, but we're only gonna buy what we need. And maybe there's just space to buy those little lockers 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever it might be. So you don't have to pay for those lockers up front, but you have the space built in to be able to put them in and not have the situation you have right now where there's just not enough room in those locker rooms, so.
So hopefully we're planning for at least this building would sustain 5 to 10 years down the road.
Oh, I think it's
Or longer than that,
Yeah.
20, 25 years.
25 years down the road
Yeah,
before
we're
they
looking
need.
at a 20-year projection plus, you know what I mean? In order to get 20% growth in the city, that's what it would take to justify 20% growth in the staff and, you know what I mean? And does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's-
makes sense. There's gonna be some growth at some point.
It's important that there is growth built into it. That's my concern.
There definitely is. Can you go upstairs, Ken? Or-
I have a question on, up here on the PD storage.
Mhm.
I remember through our walkthrough that every little closet was jam-packed and counter stuff was shoved underneath it. So will that kind of alleviate, I mean, will that have enough space there, not only for the uniforms and the big black boxes,
yeah.
but also for office supplies and then just the weapons, the ammunition, whatever the police need to
We
have and
we have a
store?
few storage rooms that have very specific needs that are dispersed throughout the building.
Mhm.
But this is what we call a bulk storage. And if there's anything that needs to have a different level of security, you know, sometimes we'll just come in and put a chain link fence with a gate on it. And to keep like the uniforms, they might go in that room, but they don't want them walking off. Somebody forgot their shoes or forgot their pants, they're in there milling around. Those need to be semi-secure. So that's so easy to do. It's really easy to reorganize. And that big bulk room, I think they're gonna love that more than anything because if you get something that has an odd size, it doesn't store in any room, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or it takes the whole room just for it,
I
so.
just want to make sure that they have plenty of room for,
They do, and there's, you know, records, I think you saw the records right now is already also the quartermaster space. So that would get out of there, and that records room is more than enough, it's right here, more than enough to have the records that they have right now, plus room for expansion. And then in terms of weapons and ammunition, these two spaces are here, so they're able to get to these spaces from their patrol functions and that sally port for those functions. And then we've got some other smaller conference rooms or storage rooms as well. Let's see that here.
Just a small detail question, just kind of thinking from my world in an office setting, specifically from the lens of personnel and security privacy. Say those, like we had said, the sergeants needing to meet with another staff member, pulling them in that conference room. I think twofold. One, is that conference room with it being open to that main hall? Is it one that is going to be like front glass open? Is it going to be something more private? If not more private, is there an opportunity to potentially open the conference room into that records suite where there can be some more privacy of like, you know, some waiting room type area, just to create more privacy with staff so they're not having to sit out in the hallway to wait or.
I think I'd like to see us try to improve the privacy on that conference room as well. You know, it's right there. It's kind of in a location, but the people that are going to be talked to are doing their reports right across the hall.
Yeah.
So it's still not perfect. We can't open them into records because records takes a certain amount of security. You don't just let everybody walk in the records department. And it might be in some places it's 90% of their staff can't get in there. In some places it's 20% of the staff.
Okay.
But that is a good goal.
Yeah, it's funny, yeah. And then it ended up close to roll call. We definitely hear what you're saying, and we want to make that a better path as well.
This question, the space in the top right, how much space is that? Yeah.
That is about maybe 3,000 square feet.
Okay, and that's shared right now with.
It is. There's a maintenance shop down there. There's a bunch of record storage and stuff, which I believe they're archiving and getting out of there. They're going to build the new IT department is going to build a new server room down there. And that's kind of dashed in on the bottom.
Yeah, here's that IT room that they're gonna build in the next couple of months, I believe. And then this is the existing maintenance shop, office for the city hall staff. And then there's some, fences in here. I think you all saw that, that workout area is in the middle.
So that's shared now between the police and the city hall?
Mhm.
And so is that part of the 1,500 square feet you were talking about would be available?
That's a different part.
It's a different part.
Yeah.
So this is
So
more.
they still got
This is
that.
more, yeah.
Okay, that's what okay.
And we are not using that. We thought we were gonna have to take 500 square feet out of that space to get that big storage room in, but as it planned out, we didn't. So that worked out real well and,
One thing Captain wanted me to mention too, we do have, right here off of the lobby, we've got two spaces. We've got the public report room. So I know there was concerns about, right now, you're pretty much taking a report in the lobby. We'll have a room for that so they can have some privacy with the public that does come in. There's also a second soft interview room here. So you're able to have, if security is a concern or you want to get those people behind a secure door, there's a soft interview room here, as we call it, as you come on in.
So as you come into the lobby, is there somebody to greet you? You press a button?
So that's what this little box shows. This would be a countertop. You'd have bullet resistant glazing there, bullet resistant wall, and you'd have potentially two people, greeting you as you come in. Definitely somebody that would come greet you at the window. So it's very welcoming, inviting. Also some way finding, hey, I just got to get up to court. I just go this way. Yeah, please take a left over there and go up the elevator.
No more picking up the phone and dialing the number.
Right.
unless you come in there after hours, then you get into the vestibule and you dial your phone number and that goes probably to your dispatch center, I would think.
But really welcoming, inviting, to welcome you to this facility essentially.
Also the public entrance for the staff and access to the elevator.
Yeah, so PD will come this way, but the city staff will still come the way they come currently to work, which is to this elevator, to the stair. And so City Hall staff would actually potentially come this direction and come up this way as well if they park over in that garage or that.
Yeah, with that big garage, it's changed the dynamics of downtown. Yes, sir.
One of the questions that the community group had been asking too is just like, what if somebody's fleeing some kind of an aggressor and they come into this lobby and especially after hours where maybe the record staff isn't there, what's the scenario for somebody coming in there and having a sense of being secure?
Well, that's a detail, but I think one of the buildings we toured or what we talked about was if they leave that outside door open at night, people can get in there, they can use the phone, they can't get into the building, they can't get into the inner vestibule door, but then also a lockdown button. So if they were fleeing, they could hit the button and it would lock the door behind them. And then, and everything's on CCTV around there. So if anything's going on, like people are trying to break the glass to get into them, okay, you're on television, good luck. And Kevin, does that sound, we talked about it, but.
I think that's why there's a great balance.
Yeah, it was. Okay.
So you've gotten some questions from the group. Is there any specific feedback? And you've got some suggestions, but is there any other feedback that you'd like from the community group on this?
Maybe go to the second floor first and then have
We'll
some
just show them
dialogue?
real quick. We'll show them the second floor plan
Okay.
and see what that looks like. Let me drive
Can
them.
I ask
Yes, sir.
one last clarifying question?
Downstairs.
That area up top, you said that's the current workout room area.
Yeah, it's right in the storage.
Is developing that in these plans, or will that be a completely separate project?
Completely separate for
Okay.
city hall use or
Gotcha.
whatever use the city deems necessary for that. Again, that IT, it's hard to see that boundary there, but
Yeah,
that IT room takes a good chunk of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That
it does. It's
bottom
going
part.
right up there. Plus they've got this maintenance shop in there. The maintenance people set there. There's electrical and mechanical rooms. We may have to expand right in place, so it might take a little bit of space, but we are driving this hallway through there so that the maintenance staff can get there from the elevator and not have to come down the stair.
So it opens up space for City Hall, but not necessarily useful space at the moment.
It's good storage space.
Storage, yeah, great
And
storage space.
maintenance and things like that. Yeah, it's really good for
Well, and the
that.
police have storage in there now, right? I mean, you've got a
Yes, they do.
fenced off part in there.
Yeah.
That's like right up here, right? Kind of
Yeah, so
over
some of that would move into a lot of it actually would move into the police facility and
Okay.
open that up for city hall use.
Thank you.
So when the public come in there and they use those bathrooms, is that a secure door at the top of that 45
Yes,
degree
Yes, it
angle?
is.
is.
Right
Yes,
there.
it is. Right there. Yes, that's
Okay.
secure.
So that door and then the one right bottom of that stair as well, to the left there next to the reception
That's
desk.
also a secure door, okay.
Want to go upstairs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so you can see the existing city hall at level. So obviously this is all city staff. There's your courtroom right there. This is the court's staff people. And initially, all of this is police right now.
you can see that long skinny room right in the middle. That's the records quartermaster room that we kind of meandered.
So we have a need for a little bit of space here. These bathrooms we put in here to serve their training room are really congested and tight. It's really, we might expand a little bit in this, but there's a couple thousand square feet of space right there in the existing city hall that we don't think we're gonna need. Maybe 1,500, something like that. We'll know, as we develop this more, we'll know the exact thing. But it kind of, as you come down this hallway, the city staff, we've got some wellness rooms we put in here. Some people call them lactation rooms, some people call them quiet rooms. But we put them in a position, even though they're inside the police station, we might need to add another door in here to make the police function properly. But ideally, this is for police. If they're working till 3 in the morning and they got to be in court at 9 the next morning, they might just come in here and sit down and try to take a nap for a little bit. You do the reports and things. Or, the city hall staff now can use it because it's right there. So that's a nice feature. So I kind of want to back out a little bit. This is the officer entry, and the vestibule to come in was right down in here. So as you come into that break room with that stair that goes upstairs, this is a big 2-story space. And it's got a lot of natural light into this. So it's going to completely, this one decision is going to completely change the lives of everybody that works in this building, I think. We've got enough offices to kind of ring the outside with the investigations division back here and administration and support services up in this area. But as you come in, I'm thinking this is just a railing, maybe a glass handrail that goes across there. So that light's just going to bleed back into these spaces and let all that natural light in. We'll probably try to figure out some way to put side lights by the doors in these offices if they want that, to let the natural light come through the offices too. But that's going to be a pretty big change for them up in here. As you kind of come from the public side, you come in here, they've got this nice big training room that's upstairs. It's right where the doors, the door to get to police is right there now. So this is just the end of the hallway. You look out, it's a big window looking out to the neighborhood. We're taking that thing out and putting a door in it and saying, okay, now here's your training room. So this is also a community room for the public. So not only training, but community function. They have a real nice in and out through the city hall. They've got access to those restrooms that are on that level. And they may have some restrooms in here as well.
So if they park on the lower level in that garage, they can come up that elevator and they'll be right.
Boom, right there. They go back downstairs and go right out through the doors. So there's a little kitchenette and some storage for the training room. As you come back one level into the facility, this is an interview suite. So there's a couple of interview rooms here with a bathroom and a soft interview room. So investigations, a lot of people will be using this interview suite. It's got a really good access to the public side over here, whether they come up the elevator from the lobby and come in this way, or whether they just come in through City Hall. And then also the people that will be doing the interviewing from the investigations division are right here. A couple little storage rooms in here, copy center, things like that. That's the existing stair, and these are the existing mechanical rooms upstairs that we're going to try to keep all the equipment in. Tried to just plug these quiet rooms into a couple of rooms that exist up there. So we're trying to do everything we can to save money, but you can still see we couldn't fill out the whole floor with space. There just isn't enough space to go upstairs. And the strategy of rather than taking a big chunk out of the building that looks like that, we just brought it all inside. And there's a little bit of a premium because you have to heat and air condition that air, but it's very minimal because it's not a huge load on the space. And it gives them the dynamics of having a nice space. I mean, in the future, I suppose you could infill that hole rather than expand, but I think that the idea here is change. This is if you try to be safe all the time as an architect, you end up getting a lot of safe buildings. And I, quite frankly, when I got into this, I thought we were gonna have to be safe, but we always swing for the fence. It's real easy to come back from the fence, but if you don't ever get out there, like I say, I had no idea this was gonna be possible when we started this job. So I don't, you can't probably see it enough. I can't wait till you see some more developed images and stuff and inside. But it will be a life-changing thing for them, I'm sure.
And I think the open office area you're seeing there with those cubicles, really allows us to handle that expansion. But by having all that open office, the flexibility 10, 15 years from now really is automatically built in. So I think the PD is definitely excited about that concept, and having more cubicles, less open offices, less private offices really allows for that flexibility down the road.
Is the public lobby there 2-story open area?
It is.
Yeah,
It's a 2-story lobby.
Yeah, existing. We're in this room back here right now, so this is the space you guys walked in on probably.
Yeah, he's talking about our lobby, I think, down there.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, that one.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And the question is, do we have windows from the training room looking down or not? I don't know. You know what I mean? So there's something weird about going to the police station and seeing some viewing windows looking at you. You know, you're on CCTV, but on the other hand, that gives you an aura, a vibe that isn't necessarily the most inviting.
Yeah.
So sometimes we just leave those windows out. Anything else? Good.
Good job.
So any feedback that you're looking for specifically, Ken and Nick? Any comments?
I mean, I know I showed y'all Gladstone and Green Valley last time we met, and kind of, there's lots of great ideas that those projects achieve, and we try to incorporate some of those as we space plan and design this as well. So those departments have thought that those turned out successfully, so we wanted to incorporate some of those.
It was so funny. We were having the ribbon cutting ceremony for one of our stations. Green Valley is the station. That wasn't that long ago. And we built this entryway, break room, hub of their patrol operation with all their report writing stations and things, kind of as a way to change it from just coming down squeezing in the back door and walking over to your desk to something that was nice. And the officers were all kind of milling together back in their break room, waiting for the event to start, which is in the next 10 minutes. But they were all there. It was their room, and they'd already taken it over. And I tell you, you get feedback like that.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for, you know what I mean?
It's really, I mean, it's pretty economical space. You know, you're gonna have a break room regardless. Instead of putting 4 walls around your break room, you combine it with the hallway that's gonna happen there anyways. And all of a sudden you have a dynamic space that everybody gets to walk in every day. You know, get to work that way and see each other.
My feedback would be is I'm really delighted to see what you can do with that space. Cause I was leading one meeting going, we're gonna have to build someplace else.
I know.
Because there isn't room here to do it, but you're doing it. And by doing it, the cost of this thing is going to be, I think, a lot more easier to sell to the public.
Yeah.
And because it's going to take a sales job regardless. I mean, I don't care how easy and how important we think it is, we're going to have to sell it to the public. And I think that this creates that opportunity a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Well, initially, even if they're parking in the parking lot across the street, we don't have to build that parking lot. You know what, $3,500 a stall? And if somebody comes in and builds a garage and they can utilize that for the secure parking, now that's an amenity that we're not paying. I don't know if we're paying for it or not. I don't know how that works.
No, it's perfect.
But that's just, it just keeps piling up.
Yeah, no.
You know, and I'm just gonna make a comment, kudos to you and your company, because I almost feel like you're thinking as police officers. Your experience that you've had with Gladstone and Green Valley has certainly showed us what you can do and what you think, how you think, because you're almost like putting yourself in that patrol officers, what they think, what they look like, and what does this look like to our public.
Thank you.
So I'm pleased at the company that we've chosen, that you guys have chosen. So good job to you guys.
Is this the time we spell the name of the company for the, no?
Yes.
Thank you. That was a great comment, though. That was really nice. I know it's just a rough sketch right now, but
It is,
it's gonna-
very much
it's getting
so,
a lot
but
of legs, and it's gonna be
A
really,
lot of
really nice.
details have went into it. I mean, you think about restrooms and
And I guess I'm gonna throw something in just to be discussed here too. So you asked earlier about like how many years is this good for, right? So there's 2 sides to that question. And I think the first side that you were asking, can this help meet future growth needs of the community and for the department? So you got that question answered. There's the other question about, and this is something we'll continue to cover as we drill down further into design and that, but it's what's the lifespan of this expanded facility? And that's gonna be probably a time, is it safe to say that that'll be a time horizon even further out than the actual growth of the force and the community?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking decades and decades of usability of the building.
You know,
So,
the old lime green carpet we had on the floor when I was a kid, went out of style and came back in and went back out of style again. So there are gonna be some needs for some paint and things like that. You know, the carpet's not gonna last forever, but the durability is what you're asking about, of the materials we use to keep from beating it up. Yeah, I think that's, you know what I mean, more neutral color.
So it's even gonna be, the building's gonna be even more sustainable than perhaps the worry about the size of the police force.
Yes, it will be good.
Steve, I got one on that same line. I think we're gonna have, if it does real well, the police needs going in the future, and if it's got a 20 years, that's great. My other concern though is, what about the city hall? And I know that's a separate issue. However, I want to make sure that we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. So that city hall has the same amount of growth possibilities without having to go back to the public again and say, well, we got a real nice police station and we remodeled everything, but do we have enough space for the city hall down the road as well? And how far down, what do you think it might be? I know that we have been on a very limited growth as far as population for the last few years. However, with that being said, there's also a lot of plans, and plans are what they are, just plans. And I know they don't all come true, but if the Montage and those other areas that come up and expansion of the South Liberty Parkway come to true, will we have room for our city folks? Because I don't want to forget our city hall folks, because this is their building too, as well as it is the police station.
What I see, we haven't been hired to study the city hall side, but we can't help as an architect walking through the space and say, hey, where are we putting the people? I really think we need that 1,500 or 2,000 square foot on that second floor. And as we redesign this thing, the more space we can give them, everybody agrees, we want to give that as soft space. But I also walk through the existing space, you know, it's kind of the third floor is kind of a triangular space. We met up there that first day. Just by reorganizing the furniture and not following the 45 and doing the other way, you can get about a 20% increase probably in staff ability just to sit on the floor that they're already in. Now you may have to purchase new furniture and get it organized and things like that. So there's a little bit of, on the existing floors, there's a little bit of built-in. What we really saw the hole was the court staff is kind of wedged into a little wedge down through there, and they don't even need to be there. They could be someplace else if someone else wanted to take that space. But certainly trying to save that space, I think everybody was behind the idea of that.
Yeah, I don't want, like I said, I want to make sure our city hall folks, Sherry, your group gets taken care of as well.
Yeah, I think globally different, what COVID has taught us, we don't all need to be here at the same time. So, you know, if we start running into, there's certain positions, yes, I mean, we're gonna have the finance window open, yes. But there's a certain amount, a percentage that in today's day and age, you know, we could work from home if we needed to.
Please have a little bit harder time working from home because there's.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean,
But
you know,
the city
today's
hall,
day and
that's-
age, it may or may not have to.
And that's great, but I just wanted everybody to be aware that we can't forget about City Hall.
Right.
Because they're part of this whole thing. We want, the people in City Hall want to come to, be proud of where they come to work as well, as we do our police officers.
Well, and that's why we didn't enclose the third floor. We left the front entryway there for the public to walk in and have a sense of a nice looking building. But it does open it up, but.
Sherry, I'd like to maybe add that point, you know, the kind of a future vision of City Hall as a parking lot item.
Yeah.
Would it be possible perhaps for you and or somebody from the city administrator to just come address the group about the vision that you all have about that? So I'm sure you think about it from time to time. So just to give this group an opportunity to hear from that side of the building, I guess, about whether you feel that's something that's a big concern right now or not. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other feedback that Ken or Nick that you'd like on the two floors from the group at this point? Or okay, well, so speaking of parking lot and things like that, I want to pull that back up because I think we put these things aside after the first meeting, but let's go back and revisit this parking lot for just a second.
The literal parking lot or something?
Well, this is the parking lot of ideas that weren't ripe for discussion yet for the group, but I think they are now. These are the things that we put in the parking lot that we weren't ready to talk about at the first meeting because we needed more work to be done. So right now, you was questioned, should we close the street? How do you feel as a group? I mean, is that something you'd want to encourage the city to do to achieve this design, this renovation? Is that something that makes sense to you?
Absolutely. I don't think I see it's gonna impact the flow of the traffic around the square at all. I think
Okay.
it's just a small street.
Does the city have an apprehension about closing the street to achieve this design?
No.
No? Okay. So can we take this out of the parking lot? Is this okay then, right?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And it might be something you just as part of your recommendation, say, we're okay with that happening.
Mhm.
And then the other thing was just the secure parking lot and the future garage. And I don't know, it sounds like that's something that's being discussed, but nothing definitive as far as timing or things like that at this point. Is that,
I
We,
don't know.
we feel that are good for potentially earmark from the federal government. We're just waiting for the appropriations to occur. And if that does occur, then from the federal government of about $5 million, then there's a lot of combined other funding sources to put that future garage in place.
so there's already some deliberate steps that the
Yes.
city has taken to actually potentially add that amenity, assuming the federal funding side comes through.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Do you have a plan if it doesn't? Is that gonna take a tax? Would that take a,
The city funding part of it is not a tax increase.
okay,
How much we can swing for if the federal funds don't come in, it will be a while.
I think federal funds right now is a wild card.
Um,
I mean,
Graves' office has already indicated that we are on his recommendation list. And so we're just trying to make sure we've already contacted his office with the change in administration coming to, continue to discuss that with them. Nothing's ever guaranteed, but it is.
Taxes.
Yeah. Death and taxes.
And then so let's say there's some kind of a delay or hiccup in that, and that sounds like you're even talking about a private-public partnership to do something with a garage or something. But it sounds like there might even be a contingency if all that fails, to at least provide secure parking via fencing. And is that,
Yeah, it'd be part of the project.
the secure fence would be part of a project? Okay.
Do you have a timeline on perhaps on the garage? Are we talking 6 months, a year, 2 years?
For it to be in place.
I mean, before to know that we're gonna get the funds.
We're getting the funds, we should know by March.
Okay,
Oh, that's good.
that's good news.
That was what we're hoping for is March.
Okay. All right.
Have you guys made given us an idea of scope as far as timeline for the project itself, if we were to pass?
Yeah, so we would start again Nick, you probably remember your schedule. By the
Yeah,
back of your hand, why don't you tell us?
Depending on what this group decides to do, we could start as early as May, once the funding is determined. We would draw through 2025 essentially, with the documents getting done toward the end of 2025. Start construction, or the first quarter of 2026.
And it could be a little bit earlier than that, or a month or so, one way or the other, but that's really good. And then what do we think? It's maybe about a year and a half
of construction.
Yeah, because you gotta build things, you gotta go in and tear stuff up. You know what I mean? It might be the police, we think we're gonna have to move them out because we're gonna have to tear the two walls off the existing building. We still think there's value in that. And so it's probably gonna be at least a year to get that all built.
2027?
End of 2026, definitely by mid 2027.
All right, so any other thing on the floor plans? I think we're ready to move on to the next item on the agenda. If you pull that up just very so quickly here. we're making decent time here. I think we should be wrapped up by 7, no problem. Okay, so this is now, building aesthetics. We've I think that's where we start talking about the durability and some of the other things, and we've definitely looked at some rough ideas of aesthetics, but how does that start to how do you estimate costs and some things that you want to get input from this group on as far as different features of the building?
Yeah, I think we're doing what's called a range estimate. And we do that even before we start designing to make sure that we don't spend a bunch of time and a bunch of people's money designing something that they have no intentions of funding. You know what I mean? This was 800 million, something like that. That's not good. But, so we've got some a range number, but now that we've got an actual design, we're going to actually have a third-party cost estimator who does a lot of estimates for us. They're from this region right here, and then we'll walk them through and have them do a detailed cost estimate. So we have more accurate numbers, and we wait till we get our computer plans drawn though, because we're still pushing and pulling on things a little bit. That way we get as much accuracy as we can. That's when we will get that. And when were we supposed to have that? December?
Yeah, I think mid-December is the goal, to get it in front of this group, obviously, and city council eventually. So.
Any chance we could hit the 16th?
Of December?
Yeah, that's mid-December.
I don't know. That's a good question.
That's when we meet.
That's our next meeting.
I certainly share the ranges.
Just,
I don't want to.
We will definitely let you know. We'll
That would be a great goal.
keep that in the radar, December 16th.
Yep.
And is there any building aesthetic input you want? Any other input at this time? Anything you have questions about with design aesthetics?
I love the light in the offices. When I was down there,
Natural light, you
I
mean?
would quit my job first week. I was working down in the basement of this building.
You don't want to be the,
Hard.
And the evidence room?
yeah, the evidence room.
No,
Can we meet that guy?
I guess one question I have is, as much work as you're doing with us on this, I assume, and I would hope that you're doing an equivalent amount of gathering input from the officers themselves as far as the aesthetic piece. I mean, we could give you our suggestions, but I wouldn't even know.
Yeah, we had,
they're the ones
yeah.
living it every day.
Yeah, we had 4 meetings over those 3 days last week.
Cool.
Plus 4 or 5 meetings before we
that.
started design.
And then we've got a meeting next week as well. So obviously, Captain's here, hearing your feedback, and then there's about 4 or 5 of them from the PD group that meets with us every single time. So awesome.
Great.
Lots of great feedback from them.
And then, of course, as the project goes forward after April, then we'll be getting the departments in. You know what I mean? The commanders know how the departments need to lay out and things like that, but we'll be talking about room-to-room programming. That's what we do at that point in time, so.
Excellent.
I guess one thing I want to do, as far as, I know one thing you all have brought up before, but it sounds like maybe that's now on the table in your thinking. But there had been that question earlier about should the city be looking at an alternative location to that? Do you think that's something worth pursuing at this point? Or do you think this is going to be the right course of action to do the expansion?
I think they have to have something to compare it to. I mean, otherwise, we don't have anything to compare with. I'd like to see what a relocation would be, if that's feasible. I mean, that's what we started off with, was expansion versus relocation. And we've talked a lot about expansion, and I think the discussion's been well, but nothing about relocation, what the possible downfalls and positives of, if that would be, if we're going to make a recommendation to the rest of the citizens of the community. Because I know they're going to ask that question. Was it better to go off or stay where you are, go someplace else? I mean, I know that's a question that the community is going to ask.
We have done some comparative cost analysis, although we got to get the areas right. So we'll update that hopefully for the 16. It's $3.5 million more, plus any.
For a new location.
Plus any land costs that you would have.
Plus utilities to run stuff,
Yeah.
utility wise.
I mean, I just think of my own house, remodeling my own house versus getting a newer house. And I can't imagine getting a newer house today in today's economy versus remodeling my current house. And so,
I don't know if it's a better idea, but I'd like to know what
I
But the
agree.
point is-
We'll
I
get
would,
that for you, Bob.
in the great world, personally, I would love a brand new, all bells and whistles, new building, but I just think the costs are gonna be,
But we don't know.
well, you're right, you're
Well,
right. And that's just me. I don't have any clue.
Well, I think if there's an ability to understand if there's any parcel out there that's either owned by the city or roughly available, and then, then there's that whole thing about, is there infrastructure there or not? All that stuff.
We don't know
So
that.
if there's a way to just kind of maybe,
If you put $1.5 million or a couple $1 million in it for land costs, if you have to buy the land, which you probably do, you're talking $5 million. And those are just round numbers. I want to give you the real information.
and that's before you start building, right?
Well, that's includes that's the premium to build something on new. And,
Plus this, plus whatever this is.
Right, right, but that's the premium.
yeah, that's the premium
You're
plus.
looking 9 or 10 million total.
But we can share some of those more detailed numbers maybe next
I
time.
want to make sure that they have more validity.
Yeah, and I think Bill brings up a valuable point that's
Yeah.
good for the whole community to understand that, because you're right, if Bill's thinking that, there could be another 10,000 people in town thinking that, so,
I didn't say necessarily I was thinking that. I was just
No.
thinking,
okay.
Right,
Something
but,
is.
and then personally, I like the fact of the police department down in what I consider the hub of Liberty.
why?
I
It's
mean,
called the heart of it.
heart of Liberty, the heart of,
But why?
I mean, I like it because people have access to it, they see it better. They have more police presence around here in the neighborhood.
You think they wouldn't have it where they're going? I
Um,
mean, let's face it, the police mostly are out patrolling.
right,
So the
which they are, they're
time of
supposed to be.
responding to a call shouldn't be any different,
Mhm.
really. I think, I grew up here, the police department's always been right here. And I
Yeah.
understand from a historical point of view, there's a lot of people don't want it to move. They want it to stay on the square, in the square.
Sure.
But I don't know if that's the best thing for the community or not. I mean, it
Yeah,
may
I
well
think-
be.
Yeah, and it's the public, their perception. My perception is different than lots of other people's
Huh?
perception.
Yeah, I think
There
it's,
used to be up on Mississippi and Maine.
What's that?
where
The police
Mormon
department?
jail is.
Yeah, the Mormon jail, that was right up there.
Oh,
Yeah, that was the real.
Really?
Jail,
That was the
Yeah.
jail.
where the,
Yeah, I know where
across
that's
from
at.
Presbyterian Church,
Uh-huh.
that's where the original jail was.
We'll
was.
spend a little bit of time at our next meeting, again, I think,
Didn't know that.
I think the worst thing that could happen is that this thing gets out to where the rest of the public at some point has to vote on something, that there's that idea in the back of their mind that's not been hopefully resolved through further
I
discussion.
think the fact that we discussed it would show the people that we're not just looking at one thing and
Right.
rubber stamping this is what.
No, you're
Right.
spot on, Bill.
Yeah.
You're spot on.
And really,
Exactly right.
the community group, that's what you're here for. Are we spending the money in a way that you can support? And, that building, I think the building that they've got there on this expansion, and Kevin, I kind of look at you. Are you happy if that was your home? Would you be happy with that?
Yeah, I think we spent a lot of time going through design, which I think was just right. We gave up some space and we added some things back in to make it functional, but a nice space for officers.
I was concerned that we would have to move out just to get a space that functioned well, just to be frank, Bill, and it doesn't, it works. So I'll eat my words and.
I think if that road doesn't close, it wouldn't work.
Correct. Yeah. I don't know how to do that. That was the real key right there, closing down that.
And why do we have to make a decision on this?
Well,
I mean-
you're not making a decision that binds the city.
No.
You're giving your perspective of being members of this community of what the city ought to do.
And when do we need to do that by?
We need to do that by our last meeting.
Which is February 2nd.
No, that's a public meeting. That's where you're going to share your
December 30th?
recommendations with the rest of the community. So the 30th, if maybe even sooner. Maybe we can do it by the next meeting if we have enough
Yeah, I'll
information.
definitely have to bring some cost information in for
We're
you.
gonna have to have it somewhat sooner because we figure there's gonna have to be some sort of tax initiative to fund this. And the goal potentially would be the earliest we put it on the April ballot. And that has to be decided by middle of January. So
Okay.
You know how much you're asking for.
how much we're gonna ask for, what's the cost and what are we asking for? So we need to be making those decisions here
That's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
and early January at the very latest.
So funny, your question was clear, but we answered it in 3 different ways. didn't we?
Dialogue,
amazing.
really-
That was
really good
great.
dialogue,
Right?
Really good dialogue.
Great.
Well, but
So.
I just want to make sure that
Yeah,
we have a date that we know when we should make our recommendation to the, I guess, to the council based on what this.
Right.
so it sounds like, do we need to move that meeting up further? That if we have to
Well,
have
let's,
by the
we'll
middle of January.
work with the city and figure out if we need to adjust the schedule and make
Okay.
sure that, I mean, we don't want you going into making a recommendation unless you feel like you have all the information that's gonna help you to be.
And we want to
comfortable
get
with
you a detailed estimate too, that you all could see, what we've drawn. And again, we just started last week essentially, so.
And how they're going to finance it. How are we going to pay for this? Is this going to be a property tax increase or is this going to be a sales tax or a combination of both or whatever? So that makes a difference.
Right.
And
So-
is,
Also, do you see us going out into the community or speaking to the community groups such as the Chamber, the Clay County EDC, the local community groups and talking to them about the project?
Yeah, Jackie, thank you for that question. I think, and then just even to the extent that now that there's even dialogue in the community on social media, that's a great question. So I know that if this ends up being some sort of a bond issue or something, it's going to end up on a ballot in some shape or form. And I would, and I know the city, if they're going to go out and make an ask of the public, they have to make the case to the public why they're making the ask. And so there's certainly going to be something that the city's going to do to inform the citizens as to why they think they need what they're asking, right? There's that part of it. I would certainly hope and encourage you all, if you feel so minded to do so, that you would make yourselves available. Let's say that there's a Rotary Club out there that's looking, and a lot of these service organizations in town are always looking for programming, right? They always want somebody to come in and talk to them about something. So I think there's probably some low-hanging fruit opportunities for the rest of the public to continue to learn more about this. I honestly can't think of a better person to go speak to them in many ways than you all, because you have an intimate look inside to this facility and the needs of this that most of the rest of the community simply has not had the benefit of. Now, there will be a virtual tour that we're creating, all these other things. But if you're willing and able to go out and speak before a group, and not that you're here representing the city, you are representing yourself as a member of this group and as a resident of whatever ward you're from. And if you feel so inclined to share why you recommended what you recommended city, assuming we see something the city acts on that looks hopefully a lot like what you recommend to them, then I that's let your conscience be your guide. But I certainly hope that you clearly have been willing to step up as citizens of this community to understand this challenge that the police department has, and are willing to share your ideas with the city government. And I'd hope you would be willing to share your ideas with the rest of the community. That's certainly what we're asking you to do at the open house public hearing. The way that's going to look, it's going to look like a job fair or a science fair, right? We'll create displays. We're going to create fact sheets. You're going to approve everything that's getting done in your name as a group. And when we have this open house public meeting, there'll be like a meeting about, you all, like, how did you come together and where are you all from? There's gonna be another thing talking about what the police department needs for this and why it's being done, things like that. There'll be stuff there about the design. So hopefully you'll come to that meeting. You're kind of going to staff the meeting, if you will, but the Hafer-Welker staff, the city staff are going to be there to support you as kind of the hosts of the meeting. So you're not there on an island by yourself. You've got kind of some of the other subject matter experts that know different things about what's going on with the public meeting displays that are there to help you share why you recommended what you did with the rest of the town.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we see happening here. Again, and I certainly think this will be a hot topic for the community. And so I hope you will engage in discussion. And on social media, I would just say the same thing too. Social media can be a great place for information, and it can also be a horrible place for disinformation and misinformation and toxic opinions.
Exactly.
And just as you all as a group have agreed that there's going to be no personal attacks here amongst you all on differing opinions, but there are issues that come up are issues that need to be discussed, whether people agree with what the thing is or not. And so I would certainly encourage you, if you start seeing things on social media and you know from your own experience those things are not correct, I'm not asking you to challenge an individual, but I am asking you to possibly weigh in and say, here's what I know the facts are, because I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm sitting at a table hearing these conversations. I'm interacting with the police department. I'm interacting with the architects. And so I think that is the best thing for this community, is to form opinions that are based on facts and based on truth. Okay, and we all have opinions from those things, but let's not confuse opinions with facts and truth.
I like what Jackie said today. She addressed it on social media today that she had something. I know you sent it out to everybody, and I thought that was very well written and very nice. Thank you, Jackie.
And that brings you back to something I overheard earlier, is that there was a lot of cooperation with you, Steve, on her writing that. Now, is that something you would expect us to do?
Well, I mean,
Is to run it by you first? I mean,
no, you don't have to run anything by me. No. It was, we've got these meeting minutes and things like that. So Jackie reached out and said, hey, should we respond to this? And I encouraged her, yes, do that. And so I think anything, if I can be of help, yes. But when Jackie shared with me what she did, and she shared the post that she wanted to respond to, that's why I shared that with you all, because I promised you all transparency
That's great.
in the group. And so I wanted you to be aware that and maybe some of you saw the same, so Doc, you let me know too, you saw stuff, you didn't share with
well,
me
I actually
exactly.
Posted something, but it was
Okay.
basically saying, I asked people to watch what we were
Oh,
doing.
good, well, amen to that,
That's
but that was
I
perfect.
mean, that was not.
Yeah, so I appreciate you making me aware, because I actually myself, I'm not I know what social media is all about. I personally don't play in there. I'm on LinkedIn, that's about it. But I don't get into all that back and forth stuff. It's, I used to, and I probably lost half my hair because of that. So I'm done with that. So, but I certainly, if I can be of help to you in helping to respond to something, you're going to put your name to it, not mine. But I'm happy to help with that. Or if you need, again, I promise you, if you need to get bits of information out of the city, you can either go directly to the city or I'll hunt the information down for you. So that commitment is still there. And if you share something with me, again, I'm not putting names to things, but if Jackie, you already signed your social media post. So when I shared what you did with the rest of the group, that's because you already publicly.
I already put my name.
Yeah, so you already put your name to it. So if you don't want your name to something, that's great. I will make sure that there is always open dialogue and transparency amongst the citizens here. And so so anything I can do to help that, fine. But again, I encourage you to keep being active citizens that you are, because that is the greatest thing for the benefit of everybody in the city of Liberty. Absolutely. And I again commend the city for even bringing you together to have this opportunity to have this discourse.
Could you give me, or give everybody really, all of our email addresses?
I can do that.
Because there's times that there's something that I might know if there's something that Ed's talked about. I want to run this by him before I would put out. I'm not
Okay.
saying I'm going to do it.
I will do that.
Talk to each other.
And then everybody's, and this is your last chance. Everybody, when I asked, are you okay with sharing your email address? Nobody was afraid to share your email or whatever. I'm afraid is probably not the right word, but none of you had a concern with sharing your email address with the rest of the group. I was waiting for somebody to ask me for somebody else's email address before I move forward on that. And I think I just got asked for that. So everybody still cool with that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, then I will get your email addresses out tomorrow morning. And you will be able to communicate amongst yourselves without further ado.
Great.
Very good.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think we're back to the agenda for just a closing thing here. Okay, so we're going to obviously get some more ideas on costs at the next meeting. You got just kind of a a real high treetop level of kind of like what you do to kind of figure that out. Our next meeting is the 16th. We're gonna get, I don't know, we may tweak the focus a little bit. We may actually get more towards starting to address your recommendations, okay, and have an idea what some of these costs are looking like. And we do want to definitely, if we can, kind of city, let's, and for Welker, let's look about ideas, alternate locations, so we'll commit to that. We dispatched with the items have been in our parking lot, which had to do with parking lots, ironically. Your ideas tonight, is that fence parking, if there's gonna be no garage, is something you wanna see? I mean, this starts to be kind of an idea of some of your, recommendations, quite frankly. There's some question about the cost of the Sally Port, so that's not a unanimous thing with the group. But, certainly there's a question about cost and whether it's worth it. You all think turf's a great idea. Solar panels is a question, just kind of rough idea, like the feasibility of that. You said you definitely want the brick exterior to be complementary of the existing facility. And just a comment about some here mentioned they love the idea of the natural light getting in more into the building, the offices, and what that does for kind of morale and welfare of the people that work within the building. So those are some things I noted. Did I miss anything of your ideas that should be on this list so far?
Good.
Okay, so we'll figure out exactly what room we're meeting in on the 16th. If we may have a discussion if we need to move some other meetings up on our overall schedule, because the next one after that was supposed to be December 30th.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at that and get back to you as soon as we can on if there's any tweaks to that schedule. I think we're gonna hold fast on the open house public meeting still in February, so that date shouldn't change for any reason. And with that, we are adjourned 12, almost 13 minutes early. So thank you again for your participation and being here and doing this great service for your community.
Thank you too, Steve.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we?
We'll probably be back at 5:30 and we'll keep you posted, but we should probably be back to 5:30 to 7:30.
Okay.
Unless the meeting room forces us to look at
Want to be
that.
online, we need to do it here.
Yeah.
They're okay to do that in Lebanon?
Yeah,